Group presentation for case study 4, Getty Images versus AI art generator stable diffusion. We are group 24 and our group members are Steve, Daniel, Vedant and Afaz. Case overview. In February 2023, Getty Images is suing AI art generator Stable Diffusion's parent company Stability AI, citing brazen infringement of Getty Images' intellectual property on staggering scale. What happened? Stable Diffusion used Getty Images' library of copyrighted photographs to train its AI. That AI product is now publicly available. Through a web browser, a user can type in a phrase, example, a photo of a student sitting at a desk, and the AI will produce a photo quality image of a student at a desk. The resulting image is free, and interestingly can't be copyrighted since it was not created by a human. Getty Images argues that the AI tool has used Getty Images' copyrighted material to compete with its own product. Is this a case of brazen infringement of copyright? Or is it a dramatic shift in the tools and production of images? Learning goals. After presenting or writing about this case study, you should be able to, number 1, broadly describe the dual purposes of Canadian copyright law as described in the Copyright Act. Number 2, evaluate whether the dual roles of Canadian copyright law are being upheld with the arrival of AI text-to-image tools. Number 3, evaluate the benefits and drawbacks of applying fair dealing or fair use to collecting data for AI training datasets. Number 4, consider and describe how emerging technologies like AI interrupt and challenge current intellectual property law. Number 5, describe the Getty Images versus Stable Diffusion pending lawsuit. Number 6, optional goal. Explain how Canada copyright law protects derivative works, even though the Copyright Act gives example of derivative works but does not define the term like the US law does. But copyright protection does not apply to transformative works. Number 7, assess the pros and cons of various answers to the case study goal and develop the answer into a thesis statement. Number 8, defend the thesis statement using 3 logical arguments. Number 9, critique Canadian copyright law, noticing its focus and limitations. Number 10, reflect on your personal and professional role as a computer scientist within a large social structure. Case study thesis statement. This case study asks you to reflect on Getty Images versus Stable Diffusion lawsuit and to develop a thesis statement that defends an aspect of the case study you think is particularly important. When developing a thesis statement, narrow in on a topic of Getty Images case that relates to copyright concerns of AI datasets used for text-to-image AI tools. You might find it helpful to ask yourself questions like, should copyright law be updated to address the concerns of artists trying to make a living? Should copyright laws be updated to support AI innovation? Who should own the AI generated images? Would Canada's newly proposed AI Data Act, AIDA, eliminate the need for this lawsuit? Would any of the versions of proposed Web 3.0 improve society's ability to fairly collect images for AI training purposes while still rewarding artists? Is this case actually about AI changing the value and production of stock photography? Should Getty Images realize that AI has changed their industry? Stock photographs no longer have the value they once had, and their best corporate strategy would be to work with an AI generating tool to profit from this new technology. When writing this essay itself, refer to specific examples of Getty Images versus Stable Diffusion lawsuit. You may also refer to other text-to-image companies. Read the requirements carefully. Also, read the grading rubric.
There are 2 main approaches you can take with your thesis statement. There is the pro-Getty Images stance or the pro-Stability AI stance. For pro-Getty Images, a thesis could be, Getty Images has realized AI is changing the stock photo industry and is protesting the methods some AI companies, Stable Diffusion, are taking to conduct AI research. A pro-Stability AI thesis could be, Stability AI's use of web-scraped images falls under fair use and copyright law, as the use of these images is for education, training the AI model. There are 2 major institutions in this case study. Getty Images, a stock photo provider acting as both a creator and distributor of digital media, primarily photos, and Stability AI, created in 2022 and creator of Stable Diffusion, an open source AI art model. The company is now worth over $1 billion. First, we will present 2 pro-Getty Images points, the first of which the matter of profit. Despite making Stable Diffusion an open source, Stability AI is still able to profit off their model. This they do through Dream Studio, which uses the Stable Diffusion model. Dream Studio directly competes with Getty Images, offering an alternative to stock photo sites. Despite profiting from Stable Diffusion, which used Getty Images' intellectual property in its creation, Stability AI has not compensated Getty Images for this use. Thus, there is an argument to be made that Stability AI is violating copyright, that of Getty Images, with the quest for profit implying that research is not the only goal of Stability AI. The next pro-Getty Images point is the issue of watermarks. Stable Diffusion is currently violating Getty Images' intellectual property. They are doing this by reproducing Getty Images' watermark on generated images, despite attempts by Getty Images to get Stability AI to remove that feature from Stable Diffusion. Stability AI has yet to respond to these requests. Thus, Stability AI is not only violating Getty Images' intellectual property by reproducing their trademark, it is doing so consciously, doing nothing to stop the violation.
Here are two arguments for the pro-stability AI side of things. The first is that we're currently in an AI race that's not unlike the space race. By ruling against AI in this instance, we would be actively hamstringing our AI development. Other countries that are in this race do not have such laws to consider and would therefore gain a massive advantage in their development of AI. An example of this is that the US is currently blocking advanced chips from going to China because they're afraid of what will happen if China wins the AI race. The reference there is from a September 2022 article done by CNN on this topic. The second argument for pro-stability AI is copyright laws need to change. Copyright as is prohibitively expensive. Based off the costs that Getty Images advertises, this kind of technology, a text-to-image generator, would never be able to exist. Here's a breakdown of the cost structure from Getty Images' website. It shows they have large images, medium images, and small images, and they sell them in packages up to 10, where the cheapest that you can get the large images is in a 10-pack that costs you $4,500. That's $450 an image. If we consider the cheapest option using the largest images, as Getty Images claims Stable Diffusion of stealing, then each image would cost around $450. Recall that Getty Images is accusing Stable Diffusion of stealing 12 million images. If we just consider the images that Stable Diffusion has been accused of taking from Getty Images alone, then the cost of this bundle of images is $5.4 billion. Stable Diffusion, however, was trained off of 2.3 billion images. If we were to assume even 1/10 the price for using the other images, the non-Getty images, to train Stable Diffusion, then we're looking at a price of $108 billion. Let that sink in. Now, consider that after the massive success that Stable Diffusion has seen in the public, it's still only worth $1 billion. As such, no one in their right mind would ever opt to make Stable Diffusion if they thought existing copyright licensing laws applied. Therefore, if Getty Images wins this lawsuit, technological revolutions such as Stable Diffusion would never exist, as copyright laws, as is, are prohibitively expensive.
The final topic of this case study's description is AI data laundering. Depending on your perspective, it can be either pro-Getty Images or pro-Stability AI. Is AI data laundering a good workaround of copyright laws for AI research, or is it an abhorrent practice that flaunts copyright law? First, some information about AI data laundering. Basically, AI data laundering is a practice through which big companies use copyrighted data for tech innovation by having research institutes such as universities collect and use data to train AIs. One big name to use this method is Clearview AI, a facial recognition AI. Stability AI too has used AI data laundering. They got the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich to develop stable diffusion by providing financial donations. The big question is whether or not this is an appropriate practice. Who is hurt by this process? Is the process needed for AI research?
For this presentation, we have used two optional resources. The first, Getty Images versus Stability AI, that expands upon the complaints Getty Images has discussed in the required readings and offers several new complaints. And the second resource covers AI data laundering in more detail than discussed in this presentation.
My initial reactions to the case were to look at what I learned from the course readings about copyright and apply that to the Getty Images for Stability AI case. With that approach, it is easy to see that Getty Images has a reason to sue Stability AI. This is because Stability AI has taken photos from Getty Images to train their AI without Getty Images approval. Then, from these images, Stability AI has learned to make the watermark that is a Getty Images trademark, which gives the impression that the Getty Images were used with consent. This can also be bad for Getty Images image if the watermark is attached to a poor quality image. Then there is the fact that some prompts can lead to images almost identical to images Getty Images holds copyright to. Thus, with current copyright law, Stability AI's actions can be considered illegal. I also noticed how Getty Images was okay with licensing their images to other AI companies for training, but Stability simply took images from Getty without permission. Then there's the fact Getty Images asked Stability to get their model to stop producing Getty Images watermarks on generated images, with no answer back from Stability. This all helped shape my initial reactions and reflections to the case study's critical question.
After reading about this case study, I support Getty Images in this lawsuit as well as agree with the current copyright law that requires compensation for the use of someone's data. Although I strongly believe that as AI technology continues to improve at an astonishing pace, it's important for new laws to be put in place to address these issues. As we all know, AI is improving at a really fast pace and relies heavily on vast amount of data to learn and improve. In order to obtain this data, AI companies often uses images without the explicit consent of the creators, which is where the issue of rightful ownership arises. While it's important to protect the rights of the artist and the content creators, it is equally important to ensure that AI can continue to evolve and contribute to the society in a positive way. Therefore, I believe that some kind of arrangement or maybe a compensation should be made between these AI companies and the artist whose data they use. For example, AI companies could purchase the right to use images from artists and provide them with royalties for a specific amount of time, depending on how much data they use. By establishing a system like this, we can ensure that the rightful owner of these images is identified and compensated while still allowing the AI to learn and innovate.
Afaz's reaction on this case study. In my opinion, Getty Images deserves recognition for their dedicated efforts in not only gathering millions of images from various artists, but also effectively managing their database, writing descriptions for each image, and investing years into building their business. However, it is unfortunate that an AI company was able to exploit a loophole in the law and take advantage of Getty Images' hard work. Stability AI engaged in AI laundering by providing funds to a German university to collect images on their behalf. This allowed Stability AI to obtain copyrighted and paid images without compensating Getty Images, which should have received revenue for the use of their images. This situation raises ethical concerns regarding the lack of credit and compensation given to Getty Images. Just because something is accessible on the internet does not automatically classify it as a part of public domain. It is important to note that Stability AI acknowledges this fact, which is why they opted to engage in AI laundering. Getty Images deserves to receive payment for the effort they have put in over the years to establish their enterprise. If we allow entities such as Stability AI to scrape copyrighted information and manipulate it to seem like it falls under the fair use doctrine for the purpose of training their AI models, it could result in companies like Getty Images going out of business and many individuals losing their jobs.
My initial reaction and subsequent reflection are the same. Copyright laws don't make sense for the case of Getty Images versus Stable Diffusion, as the images aren't being stored or sold. They're being used the same way that an artist uses an image to train off of. If Stable Diffusion should be penalized for viewing images to learn off of, shouldn't all artists who do the same also be penalized? Consider the following thought experiment. A child is brought up in a room that only contains Getty images and some art supplies. No other reference material ever. They learn over time what a dog looks like, what a cat looks like, an elephant, etc., strictly from the Getty Images material. This is their entire world. Now, say someone comes and asks that child through a text prompt to draw them a cat. The child draws a cat and gives it to the requester without ever seeing them. Remember, their entire image reference comes from Getty Images. Should Getty Images be compensated for the drawing that the child drew? Now, consider the idea that you don't know if the theoretical child is human or not. You've never seen them or talked to them, only interacted with them through a text prompt exchange. In this situation, without ever being able to figure out if the child is human or not, should Getty Images be compensated for the image that the child produced? Pause the video here to take a minute to discuss the thought experiment from the previous slide as copied below.
Now it's mock debate time. For this debate, Group 22 will support the following. Stability AI should not be violating Getty Images copyrights. Thus, Getty Images should be credited for and financially compensated for the copyrighted images used to train any AI model. Although users can generate AI images for free, which they would otherwise have to pay for, Getty Images should still receive credit. For example, when a scientist uses a research paper to publish their findings and theories, they must acknowledge the author of the research paper. The same principle applies to Getty Images. On the other hand, Group 23 will talk about copyright laws don't make sense for the case of Getty Images versus Stable Diffusion, as the images aren't being stored or sold. They're being used the same way that an artist uses an image to train off. If Stable Diffusion should be penalized for viewing images to learn off, shouldn't all artists who do the same also be penalized? Now, assuming you sided with Getty Images, if we state that an AI learning from stock images should be penalized while a human shouldn't, we're setting a dangerous precedent on how AI should be treated differently or maybe worse than a human. That's something that will become a much bigger debate in the future and will have massive, probably deadly implications. If you wish to find out if your art or copyright material have been used in the development of any of these AI systems, you can always go to the following website given below: www.haveibeentrained.com. This is the summary of our presentation. First, we gave the case overview and the learning goals. Then, we gave the description that includes introduction of two institutions in this case, which are Getty Images and Stability AI. Then we discussed 2 points in the favor of Getty Images, which are Stability AI's use of Dream Studio for profit, as well as the issue of Stable Diffusion in producing Getty Images watermarks. Then we discussed 2 points in the favor of Stability AI, which are the AI race and the inadequacy of copyright law due to the price of the data. Then we introduced the concept of AI data laundering. Apart from the description, we also gave some additional resources, group reactions and reflections, discussion going over a thought experiment, mock debate, and a warning about the dangerous precedent that could be set. Thank you.